In a world full of stories, I want to go back to the 1990s and back to the four horsemen of the atheists. We've Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, and Daniel Dennett. These were the men that came along and said, man in the clouds, ha, how daft is that? Miracles, ha, how daft. Magic, superstition, how daft. These traditions inherited from cavemen from thousands of years ago, why are we still following them? Surely they need updating at some point in time. What exactly are we doing? They had a time. They infiltrated the collective consciousness, the culture, massively. Even if you haven't heard of these names, you will recognize the movement around you where people are no longer religious. I live in Ireland. This was felt because this happened at the same time. Industrialization happened heavily in this country. Don't worry about the history about that. I simply mean to say that I think we can all get a felt sense that this ha at superstition and tradition has been a strong force in our culture. And now we live in a world full of entertainment and stories. We've never had and consumed this many stories, this many narratives, ways of looking at the world. Whether it's true, TV or movies or books, we've never been this literate, and we didn't have TV before. And the TV shows have only gotten better. They no longer look like pantos that got recorded. They are now very much getting into the worldview of the main character and how they see it with all the nuances of that. And in the last 20 years, the postmodern movement has been like, look at the multiple ways of looking at the situation. Maybe don't trust the main character for just their single view of this situation because the world is more complex than that. So we are really trying to figure out something through story. We are trying to share our experience. And that is what story is. But let's take a step back. What art is, at its basis, is trying to open you up to a way of looking at the world. It uses beauty to give you access to the good and the true. Perhaps that might be a very rough definition or proposition for what art is. Its function. When you see a beautiful painting, you see beauty where you didn't see it before. And you see that there's truth in it, there's goodness in it. Perhaps, maybe I'm projecting. But I say undermining my own argument, mid-argument. Let's not. Okay. I think story has never been this important. We're swimming in story. We really are. But it's never been this important. There's so many things that we need to tackle in the future. And as I said, I think everything comes down to story. So if we start at an individual basis, how we tell ourselves our own story determines how much determination we have, determines how much courage we have, determines how comfortable we are with being assertive in this moment and being accepting in a moment. What character we can come back to, what characters we go to for wisdom and for information, or we are a collective species. And it's done through story. Even when you think of trying to learn facts and figures in school, they would have told you a narrative about it. When you did geography, they would have told you how the mountains formed. They would have given you that story. When they teach you how photosynthesis happens, they give you when this happens, then this happens, then this happens, and then you get... That's a story, that's a narrative. That's how loosely I'm using it here. So, but I think it all comes down to story. So that's on an individual level. On a collective level, and this is where story has never been more important, because, as I said, there's plenty of problems coming up, or that are here that we're not necessarily facing into, perhaps. such as geopolitics. Won't be able to solve it today. Such as AI. Won't be able to solve that today. Such as we have population collapses. We have climate and environment and imminent immigration and food shortages and deglobalization and okay, now we're getting into just a lot of politics there. But whatever, you'll recognize one of those. Whether it's just smaller families and smaller communities and everyone being a bit more lonely and everyone being a bit more isolated, to get out of that, to invite someone into a shared space will take a story. Why did we go out? Because we told ourselves we'd have a good time, because we told ourselves we were going for food, a drink, whatever it was. We had an excuse, we had a story. So as technology atomizes us and we try to feed our needs on an individual level instead of depending on other people, we want to be independent, we want to be free of those shackles. But we also want an adventure, and an adventure doesn't happen on our own. So for that, we need story. We need to become good storytellers, which means that as we swim in this world full of story, we need to emphasize, or we need to prioritize going to story for an education rather than going to story for a vacation. Because many of us are finding comfort. We are escaping our lives and just having a moment in a different world, a different worldview, and it plays out and the hero wins and success, and that hits all of our circuits. But to go to story with a way of escaping our lens of the world and seeing a different lens of the world, and then having that moment afterwards, after a good movie, after a good show, after a good book, after a good play, whatever it is, after good music. Whoo, that hit, that was something. I need time to digest that. I want to sit with that because there was something there. Beauty captured me and it showed me the good, the true, and the beautiful. We need to prioritize those experiences. We need to practice sharing, providing those experiences, perhaps, because as much as I say we're swimming in story, we will be swimming in story in the next year or two to an extent that we've never experienced before, because it's going to be supercharged with AI. Because it's just going to take way less time to start pumping out, whether it's propaganda or whether it's escapism or whether it's a good story. So prioritizing those good stories that help us break out of wherever we're stuck, break out of that. Look at the world, look at how this character symbolizes authenticity and this character symbolizes humility, and how do they play against each other in this single iteration. And then we see that through multiple stories and we're like, oh yeah, I'm getting a sense of how these two play out a little bit better at least. And the struggle, because it's a paradox, there's no reconciliation there really, other than living it out. And we'll make mistakes along the way. So grace is just needed, forgiveness is just needed, but we'll leave that for the atheists and the religious people to battle that one out. But I do bring it. We need to commune over something to form a community. We will need to share experiences. We'll need to tell our story to ourselves, to others. We will need a collective story, a team spirit to get a project going, to get a community going, to get moving in a place we want to go, to chase our North Star, to have an adventure. We will need to have a shared story. And that brings us back to the four atheists. The shared story will not be a man in the clouds. Granted, we've flown above the clouds now. There's no man up there. Grant. Okay? Physically not true. Grant. Like at this very materialist sort of level, at this very kind of everything gets reduced down to maths sort of level. I can't mathematically tell you. Even though I can tell you that there's a team spirit and that there's a family spirit or a family culture, and these different cultures play out, kind of talk to each other, they negotiate with each other, they almost have agency. Where you land on that, I don't know. But I'll say, if you have a business, if you have a project, if you have a community and you want to gather people in, if you want to bring them along with you, if you want to do any of these things, if you want to get people away from their screens, away from their phones, away from just self-soothing on their own within these concrete boxes that we're all locked in, get into a shared space where people return to. Not where people escape to, but where people return to, because there's community and you get to know people and you get to connect with people and have connections that last. If that is where we're aiming towards, story is going to be the way, and we'll have to take stories seriously. So that is what I say. We'll have to take stories seriously. That's what I'm saying to the atheists. The 4 horsemen, okay, granted. Don't have to believe in miracles, water into wine, grand. Symbolically, interesting. Can I have loads of people over and simply offer water and it be just as good a time as if we were all drinking wine? I don't know. And yes, I know that's me appropriating a culture, even if it's my own. But we'll have to choose. It's going to be done through story. That's what I think. And that's where I'm going to leave it today. So thank you for your time and attention. Let me know how you feel about story. Do you think it's as kind of primordial? Do you think it's as base reality as I say, as I think? So let me know on that one. I'm curious about that one. But as I said, thank you for your time and attention. I really do appreciate it. I hope you've had a great week. I hope you're looking forward to the week to come, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.